Welcome back to our channel, where we explore the fascinating history behind coins from around the world. Today, we'll take a closer look at the 1993 Canadian 5-cent coin, featuring Queen Elizabeth II, a small yet iconic piece of Canada's numismatic heritage. The 5-cent coin, often called the nickel, has been part of Canada's currency system since 1858. The 1993 edition continues a long tradition of design, craftsmanship, and symbolism that reflects both the nation's history and its ties to the British monarchy. On the obverse side, or front of the coin, we see the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Dora de Petrie Hunt. This particular effigy was introduced in 1990 and used until 2003. It depicts the Queen wearing a royal tiara, facing right, with the Latin inscription, Elizabeth II d. Regina, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This portrait symbolizes Canada's constitutional monarchy and its continued connection to the British Crown. Turning to the reverse side, we find one of Canada's most recognizable animal designs, the beaver. The image was created by G. E. Kruger Gray and first appeared on the 5-cent coin in 1937. The beaver is shown perched on a rock, surrounded by water, symbolizing Canada's industrious spirit and the vital role of the fur trade in the nation's early economy. Above the beaver, you'll find the word Canada, and below it, the coin's denomination, 5 cents, along with the year 1993. The 1993 Canadian nickel is made of nickel-plated steel, a durable metal that replaced the pure nickel composition used in earlier decades. It weighs 3.95 grams, measures 21.2 millimeters in diameter, and has a smooth edge. The Royal Canadian Mint struck millions of these coins for circulation, making them common in everyday transactions during the early 1990s. However, collectors often appreciate this coin for its historical context rather than rarity. The early 1990s marked a period of modernization for the Royal Canadian Mint, improving production techniques and introducing new coin designs. The 1993 nickel represents this transition period in Canadian coinage. In terms of value, circulated versions of the 1993 5-cent coin are typically worth their face value, 5 cents, but uncirculated or proof coins, especially those in mint condition, can be valued higher. Depending on condition and collector interest, they may sell for up to $1 or more. Coins in sealed mint sets or with unique minting errors can attract even greater value among numismatists. In summary, the 1993 Canadian 5-cent coin is not just pocket change, it's a piece of Canadian history. It showcases Queen Elizabeth II's dignified image, honors the nation's industrious past through the beaver design, and marks a time of innovation in Canada's minting history. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories behind coins from around the world. Next coin. In 1984, Canada issued a 5-cent coin that remains an important piece of the country's numismatic history. The 1984 Canadian 5-cent coin, often called the nickel, carries with it more than just face value. It tells a story of Canadian culture, design evolution, and the enduring image of Queen Elizabeth II. This small but significant coin was part of Canada's long-running series that featured Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse side and the iconic beaver design on the reverse. The coin was minted by the Royal Canadian Mint, continuing a tradition that dates back to 1858 when Canada first introduced decimal coinage. On the obverse of the 1984 5-cent coin is the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. This particular effigy of the Queen was used on Canadian coins from 1965 to 1989. The portrait shows her wearing a tiara, facing right, with the inscription, Elizabeth II d. Regina, which stands for, Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This image symbolized Canada's connection to the British Commonwealth and reflected the Queen's enduring influence over the Canadian monarchy during the 20th century. The reverse side of the coin features the famous beaver design created by G. E. Kruger Gray. The beaver is shown sitting on a rock surrounded by water, with the words, Canada, and the year, 1984, inscribed above and below, along with the coin's denomination, 5 cents. The beaver has long been an iconic Canadian symbol, representing hard work, perseverance, and the country's early fur trade industry, which played a major role in shaping Canada's economy and culture. The 1984 Canadian 5-cent coin was made primarily of nickel, weighing 4.6 grams and measuring 21.2 millimeters in diameter. The coin's composition gave it durability and a distinct silvery appearance. Over the years, Canadian nickels have undergone several composition changes due to metal cost fluctuations, but the 1984 issue retained the traditional nickel alloy that collectors appreciate for its historical accuracy. While billions of 5-cent coins were minted throughout the 1980s, the 1984 edition holds nostalgic value for collectors. It was produced during a stable period in Canada's coinage history, before the major portrait update in 1990 and long before the transition to plated steel coins in the 2000s. Coins from this era represent the last generation of traditional, solid metal Canadian nickels. In circulated condition, the 1984 Canadian 5-cent coin generally holds face value. However, uncirculated or proof-like examples, especially those with sharp details and mirror-like finishes, can be of interest to collectors. High-grade mint-state coins may fetch a few dollars depending on condition and rarity. Beyond its modest value, the 1984 Canadian 5-cent coin stands as a timeless piece of national heritage. It reflects Canada's craftsmanship, its connection to nature, and the monarchy's lasting legacy. For coin enthusiasts and collectors alike, this coin is more than a simple piece of metal. It's a small but enduring reminder of Canada's cultural and historical journey. Next coin. The year is 1975, and Canada's coinage continues to reflect both tradition and national pride. Among the circulating coins of that era, the 5-cent coin, often called the Canadian nickel, stands out as a small but fascinating piece of Canadian history. The 1975 Canadian 5-cent coin was part of the long-running nickel series featuring the famous beaver design. This design had been used since 1937 and remains one of Canada's most recognizable coin images. The beaver, an important symbol in Canadian culture, represents hard work, determination, and the early fur trade that played a major role in shaping the country's economy. The obverse side of the 1975 nickel features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. This elegant second portrait of the Queen shows her wearing a tiara, and it was used on Canadian coins from 1965 to 1989. Around her image are the inscriptions, Elizabeth II d.G. Regina, meaning, Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. On the reverse side, the design showcases the beaver sitting on a rock, created by Canadian artist G.E. Kruger Gray. Above the beaver is the word, Canada, while below are the coin's denomination, 5 cents, and the year 1975. The small kg initials under the beaver represent the artist's signature. In terms of specifications, the 1975 5-cent coin was made of 100% nickel, weighing about 4.54 grams with a diameter of 21.2 millimeters. It has a smooth edge and was produced by the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa. During this period, the nickel content made the coin durable and gave it a bright silvery appearance. While not particularly rare in general circulation, the 1975 Canadian nickel holds collectible value for coin enthusiasts who appreciate its design and history. Most of these coins were produced for everyday use, but coins that remain in mint state condition, with no scratches or wear, can be worth a few dollars depending on their quality and grade. Collectors often look for coins that have been preserved in uncirculated or proof-like condition, as well as examples with minting errors, such as misstrikes or doubling on the lettering. These can significantly increase a coin's value. The 1975 5-cent coin also serves as a reminder of Canada's transition. During the 1970s, it reflects a time when Canadian coinage was proudly emphasizing national symbols while keeping ties to its British heritage through the Queen's portrait. Next coin. In today's video, we'll explore the fascinating story behind the 5-cent coin from Canada, dated 1968. A small piece of metal that marks one of the most interesting transitions in Canadian coinage history. The Canadian 5-cent coin, often called the nickel, has been part of the country's currency system since 1922. But the 1968 issue holds special importance because it represents the year when Canada shifted from silver to nickel in its smaller denomination coins, officially closing an era of silver circulation. On the obverse side of the 1968 5-cent coin, we see the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. This elegant image of the young queen was first introduced in 1965 and remained on Canadian coins for several years. Surrounding her portrait are the Latin words, Elizabeth II d.G. Regina, meaning, Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. The design reflects Canada's ties to the British monarchy, a symbol of the nation's heritage and tradition. Turning the coin over, the reverse side displays one of Canada's most beloved symbols, the beaver, sitting atop a rock in the middle of a river. This design was created by G. E. Kruger Gray and first appeared on the 5-cent coin in 1937. The beaver is an important symbol in Canadian history, representing industry, hard work, and the fur trade that helped shape the early Canadian economy. Above the image, we see the word Canada, while below it, the denomination 5 cents and the year 1968 are clearly inscribed. Now, what makes the 1968 nickel so interesting is its metal composition. During that year, 2 different versions of the coin were produced. Some were made of nickel, while others were made of copper-nickel, a combination of copper and nickel. The reason for this change was due to rising metal costs and a shift in minting technology. The Royal Canadian Mint was experimenting with materials to make coins more economical while maintaining durability and appearance. The nickel version of the 1968 coin is magnetic, while the copper-nickel version is not, a fun trick collectors use to identify the difference. This small detail adds a bit of excitement for coin enthusiasts and beginners alike. In terms of value, the 1968 Canadian 5-cent coin is not considered rare, as millions were produced that year. However, uncirculated or proof-like examples, especially those with a bright original shine and sharp details, can be worth a bit more to collectors.